Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into some creepy urban legends. I saw a TikTok about these legends and it made me wonder, are any of them actually true? After digging around, I found some legends that are more than just stories. Links to sources are in the description, so credit is there if you're curious. If you're into spooky stuff, hit subscribe and let's jump right into it. The first urban legend on our list is the Maine Hermit, Christopher Knight. If you're unfamiliar, it's an odd story that started with simple, almost silly thefts. In North Pond, Maine, residents kept noticing that small, everyday items like peanut butter and apples would vanish from their homes. No one thought much of it at first since nothing valuable went missing, but the strange break-ins kept happening, thousands of times in fact. Finally, after years of mystery, police managed to catch the culprit, Christopher Knight, known as the Maine Hermit. When he was just 20, Knight intentionally isolated himself in the woods, cutting off all human contact for 27 years. He only interacted with the outside world by stealing essentials to survive, but otherwise he avoided people altogether. In the end, the North Pond residents finally got the answer to their long-standing mystery. Moving on to our next urban legend, which is a chilling one, the Boogeyman of New York, Cropsey. This story was popular on Staten Island, where kids would scare each other with tales of Cropsey, a crazed escaped mental patient with a hook for a hand, who supposedly kidnapped children and hid in the underground tunnels of Seaview Hospital. Parents even used the story to keep kids in line, warning them to be home before dark. But in the 1980s, the legend took a horrifying turn into reality. A man fitting the description of Cropsey hijacked a bus full of children, and 5 other kids went missing, with one young victim's body later found in a shallow grave near the notorious Willowbrook State School. If the name Willowbrook rings a bell, it's because the school was part of a major scandal in the 1970s. It was exposed for subjecting children to horrible conditions like overcrowding, abuse, and unethical medical experiments. In the end, Cropsey turned out to be Andre Rand, a former janitor at Willowbrook. Rand was eventually convicted of kidnapping and remains in prison to this day. Now let's talk about the next urban legend, which is the story of a real corpse used as a carnival prop. This one seriously creeped me out while looking into it. According to the legend, a haunted house or carnival ride sometimes features a mannequin that's actually a real corpse. That alone sounds terrifying, but in 1976, a film crew at Pike Amusement Park in Long Beach, California, discovered that this nightmare scenario was real. While filming, a crew member accidentally broke off the arm of a hanged mannequin on one of the spooky rides, only to find real skin and bone inside. Turns out the mannequin was the mummified body of Elmer McCurdy, an outlaw and train robber who was killed in a police shootout. McCurdy's body wasn't claimed after he was embalmed, so the undertaker put him on display, allowing people to view the corpse for a nickel. Eventually, a carnival worker claimed the body, pretending to be a relative, and for decades, McCurdy's corpse was used as a carnival attraction. Over time, the story of McCurdy was forgotten, and his body was assumed to be a fake prop. After the film crew discovered him, he was finally laid to rest in Oklahoma, with a layer of concrete over his casket to keep him from becoming a traveling exhibit ever again. Now, the next one is probably one of the most famous urban legends in Fairfax County, Virginia, the Bunny Man. According to the story, the Bunny Man was a creepy figure in a bunny suit who would appear at night wielding an axe, and was even rumored to have murdered children or left mutilated animal carcasses around town. It sounds like a campfire tale, but in October of 1970, the Washington Post published a real article titled, "Man in Bunny Suit Sought in Fairfax." In the article, a couple described how a man in a bunny suit threw a hatchet through their car windshield, angrily warning them for trespassing before disappearing into the woods. Just a week later, another couple had a similar experience. While there were no murders or missing persons, the Bunny Man legend was actually based on real events involving a man in a bunny costume with an axe, making this eerie tale far more disturbing. I wanted to include a quick, slightly humorous but still unsettling urban legend about Charlie No Face. You might have heard stories about a ghostly figure or monster with no face walking the roads at night. Well, this one's actually true. Near Pittsburgh, there was a man named Raymond Robinson who suffered a terrible accident as a child, which left him horribly disfigured. Locals dubbed him Charlie No Face, and he became a bit of a legend. Raymond only went out at night to avoid scaring people, but curious folks would sometimes drive out to see him, even bringing cigarettes and beer. If you're curious, you can look up his story. It's pretty wild. Now let's talk about this next urban legend, which is the horrifying story of a woman being buried alive. You've probably heard this one before. Someone is proclaimed dead, buried, and later discovered to have been alive the whole time, only to die from suffocation with mangled fingers and scratch marks inside the coffin. This story is likely based on the real-life case of Octavia Hatcher. In the late 1800s, she fell ill and went into a coma, only to be declared dead and quickly buried. But soon after, others with similar symptoms began to wake up. Fearing Octavia had been buried alive, her husband had her exhumed, and sadly he was right. She was found in her coffin with scratches on her face and bloodied fingers, having desperately tried to escape. The coffin lid was even torn apart. She was soon reburied, making this terrifying tale all too real. The final legend is a disturbing one about using human remains in unexpected ways. It's the true story of Big Nose George, an Old West outlaw. He was known for robbing trains, stealing horses, and even killing a local sheriff and detective. Eventually, he was caught, convicted of murder, and sentenced to hang. But what happened after his death is the truly horrifying part. No one claimed his body, so 2 doctors took it for study. Instead, they skinned him, made his skin into shoes, and even gave part of his skull as a gift to a medical student. The rest of his body was buried in a whiskey barrel, and today, those shoes are still on display at the Carbon County Museum in Rawlins, Wyoming. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I'm aiming to upload daily or at least 3 times a week for you guys. So if consistent uploads are something you look forward to, please subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day or night, and peace out.